Retirement should be a time to relax, but for many Canadians, it's becoming a growing financial crisis. Retiree incomes are falling, inflation is rising, and many are left wondering, will I have enough to get by? In this video, we'll break down the real numbers behind retiree incomes in Canada and whether a comfortable retirement is still possible on that average income. Stay with us till the end as I'll be joined by Simon Wong, our head financial planner here at Blueprint Financial, who will walk us through a quick retirement planning session to help show us how we can stretch an average retiree income. The reality of retiree income in Canada. The average retiree income in Canada is lower than you might expect. For Canadians aged 65 and older, the median after-tax income as of 2022, for couples, it was $74,200 per year, or $6,183 per month. And for single seniors, it was $30,820 per year, which is only $2,568 per month. And for context, the median income across all age groups in Canada is $95,000 approximately for couples and about $33,000 for single individuals. This means many retirees are living on significantly less than the working population. So can you actually retire comfortably on this? With rising costs, especially for housing, food, and healthcare, how far does that income really go? And that's what we're about to explore. Let's talk about surging inflation. Retirement income isn't just stagnating, it's actively losing purchasing power. Between 2020 and 2022, senior couples saw their median after-tax income drop from $76,860 to $74,200, a 1.4% decline. And single retirees experienced a decrease from $32,720 to $30,820, a 1.2% decline. And at the same time, inflation surged by about 10%, increasing the cost of essential goods like groceries, gas, and housing. Even if retiree incomes appear somewhat stable by only dropping about 1%, inflation acts like a silent tax, chipping away at financial security. Think of inflation as like a leaky bucket. Imagine having a bucket of water with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much you pour in, it just keeps leaking out. That's what inflation does to your retirement savings. It erodes your purchasing power over time. So why are average retirement incomes dropping? Well, several key factors seem to be working against retirees. First of all, there seems to be weaker pensions than in the past. Fewer employers offer guaranteed pensions, which shifts financial risk onto retirees. Then you have your savings shortfalls. Wages haven't kept up with inflation, making it harder to accumulate enough for retirement. There's also years of low interest rates. I know interest rates have been kind of high the past few years, but before that, bonds and savings accounts, often reliable income sources, offered very minimal returns, which forced retirees to take on more risk or withdraw more than planned. Then you also have longer retirements. Canadians are living longer than ever, meaning their savings need to last for decades. And that's why smart planning really matters. Retirement isn't just about saving, it's about protecting what you've worked so hard for. Proper planning helps retirees navigate these challenges and really minimizes the risk that they don't outlive their savings, which we'll show you in an example later on in this video. Comparing retiree incomes, where do you fall? Not all retirees are in the same financial situation. Some are living comfortably while others are struggling to make ends meet. So where do you fall? If you're a senior couple, earning above $74,200 per year means you're in the top 50% of retiree households. If you're earning less than that, you're in the lower half. And for single seniors, earning above $30,820 per year puts you in the upper half, while earning below that places you in the lower 50%. But here's the big challenge. Single retirees face a much tougher financial situation than couples. Even though they need less overall, their costs don't scale down nearly as much as you might think. What we see in a lot of our planning is that single people will spend about 60 to 80% of what a household spends, but will have, in a lot of the cases, about 50% of the income, or even less at a lot of the times. So breaking down the costs for housing costs, whether you're single or part of a couple, rent or home maintenance costs are often the same. And you have food and utilities. While a couple can share grocery expenses and split bills, a single retiree is covering everything on their own. Healthcare expenses. Certain medical and insurance costs are fixed no matter your household size. And that's why if you're a single retiree, financial planning is even more crucial. You'll need to be even more strategic to stretch your income. And here's a pro tip, you should budget in phases. Most retirees spend more in their first 10 to 15 years on things like traveling, hobbies, and home renovations. So structure your retirement plan to account for this active phase. Before going on to our next section, if you want to save more on taxes in retirement, check out our free guide with 5 proven strategies to keep more of your money. You can grab your free copy, a link is in the description. Why many seniors keep working. Retirement doesn't always mean leaving work completely. In fact, a surprising number of seniors continue working well into their later years. In 2022, for example, over 1.9 million Canadians aged 65 and older reported employment income, contributing to a combined $58.8 billion in earnings. So why are so many seniors still working? First, there's financial necessities. Some retirees simply don't have enough savings to cover all their expenses. That's probably the number one reason. Then you have inflation pressure. Rising costs make it harder to rely solely on pensions and savings. There's also personal fulfillment. Many retirees simply enjoy staying active in the workforce, whether it's through part-time jobs, consulting, or even starting small businesses. However, while continuing to work can be a great way to supplement income, it's not the only strategy. With smart planning, many retirees can create a sustainable financial future without relying on extending their employment. Next, Simon Wong and I will walk through a real-life retirement planning scenario and show you how to make an average retiree income work. A full financial plan typically takes several meetings and hours of behind-the-scenes work, setting goals, analyzing finances, and building a strategy. But for the purpose of this video, we'll condense it all into a few short minutes to show you how it all fits together. Today we have Simon Wong, our lead financial planner here at Blueprint Financial, and he's going to walk us through a scenario here. Why don't you tell us a bit about what we're doing?
Thanks, Chris. I'm really excited to go over a sample plan today with you where you're going to pretend to be a client and we're going to do kind of a quick 5-minute sample plan to kind of highlight what the financial planning process is. And we're going to condense maybe a 2 to 4 hour process into like a 5-minute process here. So
Great, yeah. So let's pretend that I'm a client. My name is John Doe. I'm age 65 and I'm planning to retire soon. I'll have income of about $30,000 in retirement, right around the Canadian average. I'll be spending about $65,000 though in retirement is what I'm hoping for. And as for my assets, I have about $400,000 in my RSP, $75,000 in my TFSA, and $50,000 in my non-registered account.
that's really great, John. So, tell me a little bit about what some of your concerns are and some of the goals you have so we can see how we can help you today.
Well, my main concern is that I don't want to run out of money. I know I'll be spending quite a bit in retirement, so I'm a bit worried about that. And I also want to leave a little bit of money for my daughter.
Okay, that's great. So you also mentioned obviously you've got a good sizable portfolio. Tell me a little bit about what you're invested in right now.
Right now, about 60% equity and 40% fixed income in my RSP and TFSAs, and 20% equity and 80% cash in my non-registered account.
Thanks. Okay, that's really good to know. So typically when we're doing these financial plans, we try to run fairly conservative estimates on rates of return. So for example, it's going to be 5.4% for equity, 3.4% for fixed income, and 2.4% for cash. We just don't want to make sure that we don't overestimate how much your money is growing by. And we're going to run inflation about 2.1% on how much you're going to increase your spending by every year. So, typically a financial plan, we're going to start with initial assessment. This isn't the actual financial plan, but this is some of the spreadsheet software that we actually use to do a quick analysis to understand what your situation is before we actually start diving into what we're going to do to help you. So, a couple big concerns come up first here, John, is that $65,000 of spending isn't going to be $65,000 of spending all the time if you have to spend 2% more every year. Let's just take a quick look. By the time you're 80 years old, you're going to have to spend about 88,000 to live that 65K lifestyle that you are currently living, which means you have to withdraw a lot more money from your investments. So every year you are withdrawing more and more money. And unfortunately, that means you will run out of money around age 78. And by age 79, you won't have anything left. The only asset you would have left is your principal residence home. Obviously, there's few things we can do to kind of try to supplement the income, but either sell the house, we can borrow money against the house to try to live off of. But again, I ran the numbers a little bit further again, just to see what it would look like if you were to live to age 95. Unfortunately, the amount of money you would have to borrow to sustain this lifestyle that you have is 1.58 million, which would exceed actually the growth on the house, which means that you would have a negative estate. And unfortunately, that means that both goals are not hit at your current situation where you do not have enough money to pay for all your expenses and you will not be able to leave any money. So tell me a little bit how that feels, John.
Yeah, that's pretty concerning. It sounds like I'll have to do some planning here. So why don't you What would you recommend I do in this case?
Yeah. So again, typically from here, as a financial planner, we would take this away for a couple days, spend some time doing some more analysis work. I would go through a few recommendations, but I've got some preliminary recommendations right here for you. I ran some initial numbers just to kind of show you what it would look like. We can look at downgrading the house from a $800,000 house to about a $600,000 house. You mentioned that you didn't mind working, you kind of like your job, so we can delay retirement to age 70, which would allow us to delay your OAS and CPP to age 70 and would allow us to also save more money over the next 5 years, which is saving about $1,000 into your TFSA, another $2,000 a year into your RSP. Also, let us be a little bit more aggressive with your investments. So, because we've got now a longer time frame for investing before you need the money, so we can increase the asset allocation by a bit into equity, and we can decrease spending by about 60,000. I know this isn't exactly what you wanted on the 65, but after I ran the numbers, this was actually a sustainable amount. And you would ultimately run out of money eventually at age 95. You would have some debt, but at least the debt would be lower than what your house value is. And ultimately, you achieve your goal of having enough money to live for up to 95. And you would also have a good amount of assets to leave to your daughter. So hopefully this gives you the peace of mind with these recommendations that you may want to proceed with them.
Yeah, definitely. This sounds great. Yeah, we could always chat more and run a couple more scenarios, but so far, I really like what I hear. So this is excellent. Thank you so much, Simon.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
So again, this walkthrough was a really condensed version of a process that typically spans multiple meetings, evaluating your finances, understanding your goals, and crafting a personalized strategy. But even in this short session, I hope you got a glimpse into how a well-structured plan reduces uncertainty, provides you with a lot of options, and helps retirees feel much more secure about their future. And if your goals are unrealistic, it will really help to point it out. It's better to find out now than when you're 75 and running out of money. However, this example assumes that this person has assets to work with. If you're relying solely on the average income with no assets or home ownership, financial planning becomes even more crucial. And the earlier you start, the more control you'll have over your financial future, making it easier to build security over time. Retirement is just too important to leave to chance. If you want to craft a more solid financial future, visit our website at Blueprint Financial. We'll help you build a plan that ensures you don't just survive, but thrive in retirement. And if you found this helpful, hit like and subscribe because the best way to secure your future is to stay informed.